All right, so what is going on with XRP? We're seeing it sitting at $3.50, and I think there's actually a lot further that XRP can go. We've been covering XRP on this YouTube channel for many months here, talking about how it's in an incredibly strong pattern, an incredibly strong formation, and we're seeing the start of a breakout that I think is honestly, I think it's probably going to be a lot larger than what we've seen so far. There's a lot that we're going to be covering here, but one of the first things that we have to acknowledge is that, honestly, let's just cut straight through the bullshit. That's what this YouTube channel is about. A lot of people holding XRP are completely clueless market participants. They don't understand what they're doing, which, it's going to work for you, if you buy at the right time anyway. But I want to give you tools that you can use to really sustainably make profits across the long term, and not just, small profits, but things that can be life-changing. We've done it many, many thousands of times before with many, many people, and we're definitely going to keep on doing it here. But that means that you're going to hear some things that you might not like, and if you're the kind of guy that easily takes offended, then fuck off, and we'll just speak to the adults here on the YouTube channel instead here. But, one of the first things I want to do is we just have to kind of frame this from, where we how we even got here. And, if we take a look at some of the price action that XRP pulled off back in 2018, 2017, it managed to set an all-time high at about $3. And what is this, like 10 cents? Okay, so that was an entire what is that in days? It's 2,700 days, but many years. It's like 7 years ago that happened. And so adjusted for inflation, XRP has done pretty terribly. XRP has done pretty badly. Okay, adjusted for inflation, it's fair to say that money got quite a bit weaker since 2018. And so to see our to see our valuation here of XRP being just 10, 15, 20% higher than its previous all-time high, that tells us that it's actually lagging way behind where it needs to be right now. Okay, by comparison, BTC managed to set its all-time high at $20,000 at this point in time, and now we're trading substantially higher. We're 6 times higher than that. Okay, so XRP, by that measure, and only by that measure, has done absolutely terribly. Okay, but this is good news, ladies and gents. This is really good news for you because it's in an incredibly strong pattern. We're going to get to that in just a minute. And it means that XRP has not fulfilled its potential like other parts of the crypto market have. Honestly, much of the crypto market hasn't done it yet, but XRP being one of the majors, that's what makes this really exciting. Now, before we continue, there are amazing chart setups that we've been posting inside of Levex. Those of you that are signed up to Levex using this link right here are going to be getting access to more of our analysis, that are specifically related to chart setups. It's, an exchange that you're already familiar with. The buttons are all in the same place, and you get, amazing bonuses when you start trading. They're just going to match your deposits as well to give you more free money to trade with. You get a free long short position. There's a lot of things that are great here. Proof of one-to-one reserves, and great liquidity. So definitely check it out if that sounds like something interesting to you. And Bybit obviously remains the best in the game. The crazy thing about Bybit right now in 2025 is that you can now trade traditional finance on Bybit. So that means Tesla stock, that means gold, that means even Forex, if I'm not mistaken. So really, really cool stuff there. Honestly, I think that's a complete game changer. So check them both out if you're interested. But again, only if you're not from a restricted region. Please do carefully read the disclaimer just to make sure that you're compliant with your country's local laws and regulations. But back to the XRP chart here, it does tell us a little bit of a story about how much potential this coin might have. But let's dive a little bit deeper. Okay, we're about to get to some really exciting price targets. I'll give you a quick little spoiler. I'm looking at easily, $6, $7 and so on, but we'll get there in just a minute here. One of the other big things that we need to discuss now is how XRP got to where it is at this present moment in time, okay? And if we go ahead and kind of, replay the chart, this is kind of exactly what we were talking about, for quite a while on this channel. Those of you that are subscribed are going to be aware of this, is that XRP has kind of been in, this sort of, pennant, which is honestly quite unconventional. I mean, if you look at it just from this perspective here, or maybe even on the monthly time frame, it actually looks pretty decent, right? Like it looks good. It's a good symmetrical triangle, and obviously we've got a really nice flagpole. And if you want something to kind of rub yourself off to, then here you go. This is a $500 XRP price target, which obviously I don't think is going to happen, but obviously we know that the XRP army has no limits for what will get them off. But it's a good pattern. It's a very good pattern. The only thing that's unconventional about this is the fact that it spans 7 years. And that's like quite weird. It's quite alarming. It's quite strange. It's certainly never it's certainly something I've never seen in crypto before. And it fits in with the story that I told you earlier on in this video about how absolutely weak XRP has been since 2018. Okay, it's had pretty impressive rallies in this time. Let's not lose the facts. It still had 700% rally right here, and then another nice kind of 200% here. So it's definitely moving. Bear in mind this took a year, but it's definitely moving during this time. But it never really kind of, got higher than, where it peaked back in 2018. And that's for various reasons. I think one of the main reasons is because it's a horribly corrupt foundation that runs it, and, a couple other bits like that. But who knows, actually, I could be completely wrong about that. And so what happens here is this is printed, a really interesting pattern, right? And it's like, well, is this pattern going to work? Are we going to break out? We're obviously not going up to $500. That doesn't make sense, right? And I want to show you why very quickly. I honestly think that, a lot of people probably still don't understand this, but if we go over to CoinMarketCap right here and we look at XRP, we've got this brilliant tab here. It's called Market Cap, okay? And this market cap for XRP right now is sitting at $200 billion. And, bear in mind, Bitcoin had a similar market cap to this when it was trading at about $10,000. So that's just crazy. That is just absolutely insane. XRP today is the same size as Bitcoin when it was at $10,000, which, by the way, Bitcoin fell down to 15K only as recently as 2022, which was about 3 years ago. So, XRP is a pretty big coin right now. XRP is pretty big. But, if we take a look at this from a perspective of global market caps, we can come all the way back down, kind of toward the bottom of this list. And what's really crazy here is XRP is finding itself in this region, like the 90s, the 80s. As far as global market cap, this is everything. This is gold, this is Nvidia, this is Microsoft, Apple, Bitcoin, of course, and then other commodities like Tesla, like silver, and then obviously stocks like Tesla. This is stuff that we're kind of used to here. And just absolutely, just so impressive that XRP has now managed to make itself. It's clearly not printed on this website for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't think that XRP was worth putting on here, but clearly, in this range right now, which makes it one of the bigger assets in the world. It makes it bigger than, companies like Caterpillar, Verizon, Deutsche Telekom. I didn't even know that was a German company. Okay, I guess that's T-Mobile, but Boeing as well. Big companies. You know what I mean? This is XRP right now, sitting neck and neck with McDonald's. Make it make sense, ladies and gents. The valuation is insane. And so, this is going to get a lot crazier if the price reaches $30, for example. If the price reaches $35 from here, you're going to see a market cap of $2 billion. Which is now neck and neck with Bitcoin. $2 billion valuation for Bitcoin. What am I saying? 2 trillion, my bad. A $2 trillion valuation for Bitcoin, was Bitcoin just 2-3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't even that long ago. And then, if you multiply that by 100 again, you're now looking at a $20 trillion market cap. And obviously, nothing exists at that level other than, gold itself. So XRP army probably going to like that. They're probably going to be thinking that that's doable. I really don't think that's realistic, and that helps us kind of frame what we're looking at in context, okay? Because this is a crazy chart, and if you're going by this pennant, it can lead you to some pretty crazy conclusions. I think, looking at this on the linear chart is actually a little bit more appropriate. Although, obviously, we lose our drawings a little bit. But, just for argument's sake, just to kind of show you what this might look like, this suddenly starts looking a lot more realistic and a lot more boring, mind you, as well. It gives you a target at $3.80. We know that this is completely realistic. This target could be hit within a week, within a day. This is very much within spitting distance for XRP right now. But the reason I'm showing you this is that there are a couple of different ways to kind of extrapolate targets, and if you're using, the kind of more percentage-based ones, like things on the logarithmic scale, you are just going to be pulling numbers out of your ass. Okay, it's going to be quite inaccurate, and it's not going to be grounded in reality, right? Again, just to be sure that we're on the same page. The way you calculate market cap is by multiplying the price of the asset by how many of the asset there are. So that's just the total value of the market, basically, right? Like all the Bitcoins in existence right now are worth about $2.3 trillion. And, that's because of the value of Bitcoin. So actually, I've just refreshed this. We might see XRP in here. Yeah, we do. It's at 79. So, I mean, this is just absolutely insane. I believe this is the third cryptocurrency. Yeah, the third cryptocurrency to be in the top 100 of everything in the world. So yeah, pretty crazy. And that helps us kind of, have a better idea of where this thing can go. I can totally see even $1 trillion market cap for XRP. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but at this point, I think it's definitely within the realms of possibility. Bear in mind, Ethereum's sitting at $500 billion right now, and this shit's not done. Ethereum's not anywhere close to done. It might not go up a lot more in the short term. It might, I don't know, but it certainly, I believe, is gonna reach some quite impressive price levels. At least, I think $10,000, which puts it at about $1 trillion market cap. So, it's getting there, and I certainly believe if Ethereum can do it, why the hell can't XRP do it? You know what I mean? Like, XRP has a lot of that backing. Now, there are some serious issues with XRP, like its circulating supply and how much of its supply is held by, the foundation itself compared to, what's open in the free market. This is why, the creators of XRP, they can just create more out of thin air, right? Which means that it's obviously completely antithetical to the crypto industry in every single way. But we'll just put that to the side for a second because, we're trying to make some profits. The reason that XRP sees, quite terrible drops like this quite regularly. I mean, this looks small, but bear in mind, we're on the 1 month time frame. So these are any candle right now is a big candle. And, the reason XRP gets that is because, the foundation sells on its holders, and they're going to do it again. I mean, I can't see the future, but I kind of try, and I certainly think that, we're not done with seeing that happen. But, if we now go ahead and kind of replay the chart, and take a look at where this thing is in present day, we've started the breakout. And so this pennant, as far as I'm concerned, is legitimate. Like when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know, like this shit's been going on for 6-7 years. It's XRP, you know what I mean? Like it could happen. If anything is going to do it, it's XRP, but this is unconventional. Now there's no debate. This thing is done, like we've broken out of the pennant and we can start looking at some pretty crazy price targets now. We had a first initial big run up. We're going to switch this onto the weekly time frame now. We had a first initial big run up over here, followed by very, very, very nice sideways price action, followed by another breakout now. And I think what's really important about this breakout is it's managed to take XRP higher than its previous high, okay? If we kind of put a line down here at XRP's previous all-time high, this was an all-time high against the dollar, bear in mind. If we take a look at this here, and then look at where XRP is now, we are actually finding a little bit of support off that level. So, as far as the literal best things you could possibly do, this is quite high up there. But let's not even, we're jumping ahead. Another big thing that I need to talk to you about is the fact that XRP has never managed to move up in, an aggressive way and then just trade sideways, right? It doesn't do that. When XRP, this is actually the only time I've seen it happen, or a little bit here, but this is too short term. For the most part, when XRP makes a big move up, bear in mind, this is a 200% move. That means the price of XRP tripled, yeah? So it's not a small thing. When XRP manages to pull off these big moves, it doesn't keep the gains, like it won't go up and then go sideways and then pump again, which is what we did here, right? It doesn't do that. It just goes up and then you straight back down. You're up and then you straight back down, right? You're not really seeing anything particularly different. Maybe you're a little bit slower to drop, but you're going to drop. You're not actually going to, go up, establish a new baseline, find a little bit of support, test some resistance, and then break out. It doesn't happen. XRP doesn't do it. And so the fact that XRP has done it here successfully after also breaking a 7-year long pennant and all the other factors going behind it with, how close they are to the Trump administration and how tied in they are with central banking and so on, or just, normal private banking, with all of these factors at play, to me, this was an incredibly kind of bullish pattern. And that's why we were giving it, like I talk a lot of shit about XRP, but shit, if there's money to be made, I'm going to, it's not like I don't like money, right? So I'm definitely going to still look at it. And, from this particular, narrow perspective, it's looking really, really good, I mean, for it to kind of, hold a price level and then break up, to me this implies that we can kind of just do this again. And so if we kind of just take a look at, how high this thing managed to go, we'll draw it from the absolute bottom to the absolute top. I think we can very reasonably start looking at targets. I don't know, like this is getting above $10, right? It's already getting crazy again, but like this gives us a lot of ranges to play with, right? At least I feel like there's room for this thing to double and get up to about $7, because it's not really that crazy of a move. Like I said, one of the first things I said to you on this video today is that Bitcoin is trading at 6x of its all-time high from 2018. XRP, if it were to do the same thing, going up by 6x, what is that? That's 500%, right? So that puts XRP at about $20. I mean, these are crazy price levels. These are crazy. I mean, we just spoke about what the market cap would mean for XRP, and so that potentially alludes to some really, really interesting stuff happening. Now, let's actually switch this up a little bit though and take a look at XRP against Bitcoin, because I think this is a much more important metric for the charts here, or I should say for our analysis here. And that is simply because, these coins are going to be responding to the strength or weakness of Bitcoin, okay? XRP can only go up with the blessing of a stable, strong Bitcoin. Or it doesn't have to be stable, but it has to be strong. And, this is clear that that's kind of what helped XRP here. Now, obviously, if we trace back when XRP really started to moon, this was immediately after Trump got elected, okay? Right here, we've got the 11th of November, 2024. And that was, basically right after Trump was elected. All the crypto markets all the markets everywhere started to go crazy, because obviously it would be better than having a communist like Kamala. And so, we ended up seeing a massive move up here, with XRP. It managed to pull a 5x gain against BTC. It went up by 385%. And it also peaked at, some of its more important, this is one of its more important resistance levels, right? Like it's got more resistance up ahead, and no doubt I believe it's going to be getting there, but it went to a really significant one. From there, we saw a little bit of a pullback. It was a 40% pullback. It lost nearly half of its gains against Bitcoin. Bear in mind, we're on the logarithmic scale, yeah? If we look at this on the linear scale, I think the numbers start making a little bit more sense, right? This now looks a little bit more like 40% loss. On the logarithmic scale, it kind of skews things a little bit. But now, with kind of keeping this in mind, there's some, this is just where things start. This is the crazy part. We're still on the linear scale, bear in mind, right? So this is, not in percentage. This is just, it scales normally, every 10 points it goes up kind of thing. And, this is kind of its final frontier as far as, one of its final frontiers as far as resistance goes. If XRP can get above this level, the next level that it might find some significant resistance, it could be up here at about 4,200 Satoshis. Definitely possible. But really, I think, the next interesting kind of resistance levels for XRP are going to be, probably somewhere in this neighborhood, around kind of 9,500 Satoshis. And that's just because, we've clearly got, a little bit of kind of, reversal type price action happening here for XRP against Bitcoin, which to me makes this, the next, magnetic zone for XRP, which in this case implies a 230% move to the upside, which is a 3.2 times gain, a 3.3 times gain, okay? So, if you put a Bitcoin in now and XRP hits that level, you're looking at having 3.3 BTC at the end, okay? Which is absolutely insane. I mean, that is just... that's life-changing money for, depending on who you are, depending on kind of how much you got in crypto. If you can triple your Bitcoin holdings and Bitcoin could stay above 100K, that is absolutely game-changing, right? And what I said at the beginning of the video is that we're bringing a realistic perspective to this stuff, right? Like, obviously, we want to be moon boys a little bit. We want to kind of, run away with the hype, and that's cool. Sometimes we can do that, and if you want to do that, who am I to tell you what to do, right? Not my business, but... one of the other key things that we really always make sure to do here on this YouTube channel is talk about, the kind of really practical stuff that honestly isn't too hard to pull off, that can really move the needle. I think what a lot of people do, and this is because they're inexperienced, this is because they're scared, this is because they're not taught properly, obviously always a combination of the three. What a lot of people tend to do in these kind of situations is they really overcomplicate what they're doing and what they're going to do in the future. And that's because they feel if I do more complicated stuff, if I do more stuff in general, I'm probably going to get paid more, right? And this works in a conventional corporate environment. This works when you're a student and, whatever else it might be, right? The more hours you put in, the more effort you put in, the more creative you get, the better your results are going to be. It can work as a trader. It certainly can work as a trader. It's just probably not going to work for you. And that's because, that takes an immense level of skill, an immense level of studying, an immense level of data collection. And it's just not something that most people are even equipped to do. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, we don't even need to complicate this shit. We're in the, easiest market that we've ever had, maybe hundreds of years. I don't know, maybe not. But we're in an incredibly easy market. It's so easy to make incredible gains. And for me, it's just like, well, why would I make it complicated? If I could just park up in a coin, and let it triple my BTC holdings and then BTC itself doubles, that is a 6 times gain. Do the math. If you put $1 in and your dollar triples, you've got $3. If Bitcoin itself doubles now, that $3 becomes $6. You've pulled a 6x gain by doing nothing. And so this is where this stuff gets really, really interesting. And by the way, we're all about kind of compounding that stuff and doing that stuff aggressively with the kind of chart setups that we put out on 𝗦𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪. This is the kind of stuff that's super interesting, it's very relevant. It's real-time analysis. And I think, those of you that have kind of checked this out are probably super, super happy with it. But XRP against Bitcoin here, huge potential. This thing is not anywhere near done. In fact, the bigger move has yet to happen by this particular perspective, okay? I mean, to be fair, this was a 400% move, so that's definitely quite a large move. But there is a lot more space up ahead, right, for XRP to continue to go. And I think what's really important is your risk factors are a lot lower now, right? Like we're clearly, I saw this, since Trump was elected, and even before he was elected, I think many people who, are not so sensationalist with their analysis probably felt the same way that, if Trump were to get elected, you might see a little bit of stumbling for the first couple of months. He inherited a terrible, administration from Biden or whoever the hell was running the White House previous to him. And so there were a couple of things to do. Obviously, he got dragged into a couple of wars, whatever. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think it was pretty clear that, under a Trump government, we were going to get a bull market coming into kind of mid-2025 minimum, right? Or maximum, I should say, that by then we were going to start seeing things looking pretty decent. And that's exactly where we are. And so to me, it makes the risk profile of any of these setups a lot lower. And so obviously, it's a lot easier to kind of justify putting money into the markets with that in mind. So that's cool too. And then if we look at this against the dollar, just a consolidation that's pulling off here. Like this thing wants to go. It's kind of doing the same things it's done before as far as kind of, arcing higher. By the way, take note of how XRP doesn't give you pullbacks, right? When it's running, it just runs. The only thing it does is go up. You'll get shallow pullbacks, but you won't get anything too crazy. And then it's going to go again. And, that could change. There are obviously exceptions that can happen. Even within aggressive moves up, you will still get corrections sometimes. Obviously, usually it's going to happen when you're not expecting it. But, it's in a good place as far as this kind of short-term action goes. I think a big thing that we need to see for XRP, for the rest of the market, is just, how is the S&P 500 doing? How's traditional finance doing? All of these, much more basic questions. I think if we can answer these questions, we can start to get a better idea of, where XRP might go. Because let's say the S&P 500 is looking strong, which I believe it is, and it's looking like it's going to go up, which I believe it will. That's probably going to continue to pave the path for a strong Bitcoin, and a strong Bitcoin is going to create the kind of environment that allows coins like XRP to do incredibly well. Now, there's so many other coins I need to cover with you. Ethereum, to be honest, is the one that's really stealing the show. Ethereum against Bitcoin has swept a lot of its highs here from earlier this year. It's matching the highs from the beginning of 2025 as well now, which is fantastic. So Ethereum's done incredibly well. And of course, Bitcoin dominance itself is going to be the bigger question to be discussing here. So that's something that we'll get into in another video as well. If you've appreciated this one, if you found this one useful in any way, make sure to smash up those likes. Double check that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel. It is absolutely essential during this bull market that you are getting real-time, grounded analysis. Somebody who tells you to fuck off if you're being stupid or who congratulates you if you're doing the right thing. Trust me, ladies and gents, you don't want this soft bullshit attitude in these markets right now. This is the time to make money. You got to stiffen up a little bit. You got to sit up straight, pay a little bit of attention, take some notes, do whatever you like. This is where the money gets made. And if you want to join us while we do that, then obviously you've got some beautiful links down here. If you want to get into our exclusive one-to-one program, it lasts 12 weeks. It is super intense. It is expensive. It is a serious investment. Then you can reach out on this link right here, and a member of the team will get back to you. We've had incredible results from this program. Not a single person has failed to pay off the investment fee ever. It's going to happen eventually, obviously. We're not going to keep such a brilliant streak forever. But so far, it's worked incredibly well. We're very selective of who we take on. But if you feel like you're ready to either turn your journey around or amplify it significantly further, then we are right here for you to, kind of get chatting and see what we can do. But check out these beautiful links to these great exchanges if you are interested. Obviously, only if you're allowed to in your region. And with that, ladies and gents, we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.